Batcreekstone, about, I believe it was 1882 or 1888, controlled dig by the Smithsonian. Now everything's being done proper. The guy doing the work is George Emmert, and so there he is. He's doing the work. He finds this stone with writing. He picks up, he looks at it, and he draws it in his field notes. And he says, you know, this may be Cherokee writing, because the Cherokee alphabet had already sprung out before. So he said, maybe this is some Cherokee. Sends it back to the Smithsonian, and they see it. But they also thought maybe this is something else. And so Emmert also said, you know, this might be showing contact across the pond, so to speak. And here comes the politics. Powell, soldier in the Union Army, a general, okay? Emmert was a Confederate soldier. They threw Emmert under the bus to denigrate his find and say that the stone was fake, that somebody had planted. Controlled dig. So whether we have an uncontrolled dig or a controlled dig, if we find something of antiquity, we lose because they cover it up. That stone sat in the Smithsonian in the basement till about 1964. Henrietta Mertz came along, saw a picture of that in an earlier publication, a drawing. She went to the Smithsonian, saw the stone, and she turned it over. And she says, this is Hebrew or Phoenician, but it's a Semitic language. Then she got a hold of Cyrus Thomas, who is Cyrus Gordon, who was the leading epigrapher in the United States at that time. He went to the Smithsonian, got permission to examine it, and he declared it Paleo-Hebrew. And the inscription read, for Judah. Now there's a front part broke off, but the tail end of it said, for Judah. And he dated it approximately 100 AD, 100 BC, by the way it was written, the type of script, and all that kind of thing. And again, they put it back on display, upside down, and said, Cherokee writing. It sat there all this time until now, about 2 years ago, we got the Cherokee involved at North Carolina. They pressed the Smithsonian to get the stone back. They got it back at the museum in Knoxville. Scott Wolter who's a geologist, he was able to bring down his equipment, examine the stone, and he declared the stone to be definitely very, very old, definitely past 500 years of age or even older. And then they've done some other tests, and since then they've come out and said this stone is the real deal. It was buried with the people of the mound itself, which were 9 bodies, and they were all Hopewell timeline. And that Hopewell timeline matches our Book of Mormon timeline. So here we have Hebrew script, Book of Mormon timeline. We're trying right now, we have solicited through the Cherokee Nation to actually get the bones from the Smithsonian to see if we could possibly extract DNA. And that's happening right now. I don't know if they'll be successful, but that's what's going on. Well, you got to remember, coming to the, quote, New World, nobody was really looking for an ancient society. And yeah, I would say, who could say 80%, 90% of what was here is gone. It's gone. Again, we read about things found in pioneer diaries and journals. I have a journal that it's out of Osceola, Wisconsin. They had mounds, big guys, 7, 8 foot, and they would dig one up just for kicks on a Sunday afternoon, and they'd stack the bones along the fence posts and use them for target practice. This goes on, and it went on for decades. Stuff is gone, broken, tossed aside, of no interest. We've got a copper tube was brought forward to Europeans in Lake Superior. They opened the copper tube. The Indians said, this is from our ancient ancestors. And they drew out a parchment. The parchment was written in an old script, and they got it to some scholars. They got it finally to a Hebrew guy, a rabbi, and he said it was the 5 books of Moses. 5 books of Moses came out of a copper tube. And that's in the 10 Tribes of Israel by Timothy Jenkins. Timothy was half Native American, raised Christian, but because of his Indian heritage, he knew of what we have coined Hebrewisms. And he went from tribe to tribe writing down all these stories. And that's one of the stories in that book, which I have made available back to the public. Keep these old books in reprint so you can read them for yourself. Check out the references and the sources. And that's just a couple examples. There are many, many things have been lost, broken. We know minimum 10,000 tablets came out of Michigan. 1846 to 1919. Right now, the biggest collection is in the state of Michigan. It's about 700, maybe 800 pieces. There's a few private ones around, 10 pieces, 20 pieces. But when they were declared finally fake by the early 1900s, every secondary school, some high schools, had them throughout the state of Michigan, and they threw them in the dump. They trashed them. And a lot of them, they took a hammer to before they threw them away. Smashed them up. Caskets of clay, estuary boxes, had bones in them. They smashed them up, chucked them, because it didn't fit the paradigm of Smithsonian institution. Yeah, a lot of stuff missing.